Hey, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll do a real-time demonstration of how to draw Spider-Man using the grid system. While I'm drawing, I'll be looking at this reference sheet, which can be downloaded through a link in the description of the video. To work with me on this drawing, you'll need 4 things. First, a piece of paper that is 9 by 12 size and has a grid of 1.5 inch squares lightly drawn on it. There's a link in the description of the video for how to set up a grid of this size. Second, a pencil. Third, an eraser. And fourth, this reference sheet, which can be, once again, downloaded through a link in the description of the video. So if you have your materials, you're all set and ready to go. Let's draw Spider-Man using the principles of the grid system. Now with our grid of squares set up, we're ready to draw Spider-Man, and we want to follow the rule of grid drawing, which is to draw it one square at a time. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw some of these squares together. Now it's very important to start in the right place. I want you to count down with me here, beginning in this upper left-hand corner, 1, 2, 3 to your third square. And in your third square, I want you to put the number 3 just kind of up in the corner of the square right here, just really light. Just kind of write the number 3 right there like that. Okay, so that's the square that I want to start in, right there, number 3. Okay, I'm going to move that up just a little bit. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit of grid drawing. So, with it positioned like this, let's go ahead and draw. Now, we don't use any simple shapes, we're just going to use some dots. So let's go ahead and use a dot or two, and we'll start drawing Spider-Man, and you'll be able to see how relaxing and easy this is. Okay, so on this grid line here, I want you to go up maybe slightly less than halfway, maybe about right there, and I want you to put a little dot right there. Just like that. So see where I put that, and go ahead and mark your drawing as well, right there. Okay, now across the bottom of this grid line here, let's go across maybe about this far. Now this is a great chance for you to use your negative space or your space judging skills, and you can put another little mark like that. Okay, and that's how we do these dot to dots. And then all I want to do is in between these two dots, I want to sketch in a nice little curving line like this. Okay, just like that. Now I don't need you to make that dark, just a nice little curving line like that. Okay, and that's part of Spider-Man's head, by the way. Now there's another little detail inside this square that I need to draw. Remember, we need to finish this square completely before we do another one. Okay, so I'm going to put another little dot right here, fairly close to my grid line, maybe about right there. And I'm going to put another little dot, a little mark right there, kind of close to that headline, maybe about right there. And then I'm just going to draw this little curving up triangle type shape like this. And that's actually part of Spider-Man's eye. Just like that. Okay. Now I take a look at that square, and it's all done. I've drawn everything that I need to do, and I'm ready to move on. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to put the number 4 very lightly inside this square right here. I want you to do that as well. Okay, so let's move down, and let's draw what's inside this square. Okay, and I'm going to put my dot right here near the corner of this grid, about right there. Not quite at the corner, just a little bit above, about right there. And that's where Spider-Man's face is going to touch that grid line. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sketch down here. I'm not going to go all the way to that mark because I have to do something else here. I'm going to go down about that far, and then I'm going to stop for a second. Okay, now that's the forehead of Spider-Man. And then, right here at the end of this line, it's going to bump out a little bit to the left like this, and this will be kind of for Spider-Man's nose, only about that far, as you can see. Okay, and then I'm going to go from the end of Spider-Man's nose to my little mark that I made right there. This line's going to be almost straight. There's going to be just a little bit of a curve into it, and I'll do that just like that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right, let's move on, or I should say, let's finish off this square. Now I need to do part of his eye. Now his eye is going to touch right here. I'll put another little dot right there. And then I'm just going to draw from my triangle down to that spot right there. Okay, that gives me the side of the eye. And then I'm going to put another dot about right here. Now notice where I'm putting that. You have to use a little space judging technique right there. And then I'm going to draw from the bridge of that nose to that spot right there with a curving line, which will give me bottom part of his eye. Okay, and it goes up just a teeny little bit, hits my grid line. Now I never want to draw inside another grid until I'm finished with the one I'm working on, and I'm not quite done with it. There's one more piece of his eye that's going to go like this, and it's going to touch that grid about right there. Okay, so now, as you can see, I have two squares that are done. Okay, that's pretty easy stuff. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's move down, and I'm going to put the number 5 in this square right here. Okay, now this square right here, square number 5, is one of the easiest of the whole day. I'm going to put a little dot about that close to the top of my grid line, about right there. And I'm going to put another one about right here. Now use your space judging technique to kind of see where those marks go. And then all I want to do is draw this really thin space of a curved line like this between those two marks, which is giving me a little part of Spider-Man's shoulder. Okay. And then already, grid number 5 is already done. Okay, let's move down again. I'll move this up a little bit for you. Put my number 6 inside this square here. Okay, this one, I don't know, it might be even easier than number 5. All it is just right down here in the corner, there's a tiny sliver of line just right there. See how small I made that? Just a little sliver, and that's a little part of his thigh. We've already got square number 6 done. Okay, let's do another couple with you. Okay, I'm going to move down. I'm going to put the number 7 inside that square there. Okay, and this time I'm going to put a dot about right. I think about right there. And this is another really skinny space. And I'm just going to go from here down towards that dot, very skinny, just like that. So when you're drawing using the grid system, you don't use simple shapes. You just kind of put marks, dots, and draw in between. Okay, now let's look carefully. And I'm going to count down again. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put the number 3 inside that square. Okay, see where that is, number 3? Okay, let's go ahead and do this one. This one will be a little more complicated. Okay, my dot's going to go right here, about this far away from my grid line. Now judge the distance. See how far away I'm putting that. Right there. Okay, now what I want to do then is go from here to here, and I kind of want to draw the curving part of Spider-Man's head. Now see how lightly I'm putting that in at first. Okay, let's go ahead and sketch that. I want that to be a nice round curve. You can kind of see where I'm going. Remember, when you're drawing, keep it nice and light. Draw right towards your little dot there. I'll go over that just a little bit darker for you. Just like that. Okay, that gives us the back of Spider-Man's head, as you can see. Okay, now it gets a little more fun. I still need to work inside this square here. Okay, now I'm going to put a dot on this grid line about right there. A little mark right there. And then I'm going to look at Spider-Man's head. I'm going to put a little mark about right there. Okay, now what I'm drawing right now is part of his shoulder, and in between these two marks I'm going to draw a curving line like that. It gives me a little piece of his shoulder. Okay, I'm not quite done with this square. There's one more thing I need to do. I'm going to put a dot right here. See about how far away that is from the grid line. And then I'm going to draw down until I hit that shoulder like that. Okay, that looks good. Now that square's done. Okay, now I'm going to move down. Now I'm not going to put a number inside this square, I'm just going to work on this one here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, without making a dot, I'm just going to draw a little bit more of his head down into this square. Maybe about that far, I think. Notice that for me. And then I'm going to draw a little bit of his neck that's going to go out across to the right and stop right there when I hit my grid line. Okay, very good. Let's do a couple other things here. We got to finish off his eye. Okay, there's a little sliver of his eye that's just a little curving line right here. So let's finish off and just leave a small sliver of his eye inside our grid like that. Okay, now this next one's just a little more difficult to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the end of his jaw. And what I'm thinking, I'm using some negative space, I'm going to go about straight across, just real quick from the bottom of his eye with a little sketch line, like that. And I want that to end up about that far away from this grid. So I'll put my dot about right there. Okay, I'm going to look at the bottom of this grid line here, and I'm going to put a dot about right there. And then I'm going to draw up towards my dot. I want this line to be just a little bit curving like that. Okay, there's just a small piece of his face right there too. Okay, now I'm almost done here with this square. Now I want to do a little bit of his neck, and I want his neck to end up, I'll put a dot right there. I think it starts about right here. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to go over. Now I'm not going to connect. Watch what I do here. I'm going to go over, stop about right there, and then I'm going to change direction and go up to my dot. That kind of creates that little Adam's apple for our Spider-Man like that. Okay, now that's a demonstration of drawing with the grid system. Dot-to-dot drawing within squares, and the key to doing well on the grid system is to finish one square at a time before you start another square.
So now you know all about the grid system and how to draw square by square. For the next 15 minutes, the video will not have step-by-step narration. You can still follow along with me, but you won't be hearing my voice. Please notice that I will continue to follow the most important rule of grid drawing, which is to finish drawing all the lines in a square before moving on to a new square. It always seems to work out better if you follow this rule. So, let's continue. At this point, I have 3 columns done. I'm warmed up, in the groove, in the zone, and am ready to continue and complete the hardest part of the drawing, Spider-Man's hands.
Okay, so what we want to do then is work within this square and draw some fingers that are within it. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make some marks for some negative space and use my knowledge of negative space to help me position this finger. Okay, so let's go ahead and judge this. I want you to judge the distance from the bottom of your paper right here, coming up, a little less than halfway, maybe something about right here, and I want you to put a horizontal sketch mark like this, as you can see. So I want a fingertip to touch that mark. Okay, let's look at negative space again. Let's look at this grid line here and come in to the left, and at its closest point, I want my finger to be this far away. Okay, so I'm positioning that carefully. Alright, let's look at one more thing before we start. Let's look at this grid line right here. Notice that for me. And I want you to go from this corner, come across to the right, and let's put a mark about right there. Let's put a little mark right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a finger. Now what I want to have happen, I'm going to sketch this down like this, just drawing the super light at first. I'm going to sketch downward. I'm going to have this finger kind of curve just a little bit, and I'm going to hit my mark right there. Okay, and I'm going to show you that line again. It's just a curving line like this, coming down and hitting that horizontal mark. Now where it hits my mark right there, that's going to be the very tip of my finger like that. Okay, now notice the shape of the finger that I'm about to do. Okay, here's the tip, and it's going to round up like this and hit my other mark right there, okay, like that. And then I'm going to bring this up basically parallel right there, about like that. Okay, and that's finger number 1 that I want to have right there. Notice that, if you will. Fingers can be so fun to draw. Okay, so I've got one finger down. Let's do another one. Now, this is the end of the finger here. It touches my grid right there. And I'm going to go across a super short distance to the right, and I'm going to put another mark right there. So notice how close those fingers are going to be. Okay, now I want to find the height of that finger. Now I want it to be higher than my first one, so I'm going to come up about right here. I'm going to put another horizontal sketch mark right there. Okay, now notice this carefully. I want the tip of that finger to be about right there. Let's put that little mark right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to draw downward like this with a curve once again, right towards that mark right there like that. I'm going to hit that. That's going to be the tip of my finger. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to run into my grid line right about there, and I'm going to stop like that. Remember, that's one of the rules of grid drawing, is to finish one square before you draw into a new one. Okay, now I'm almost done with this square. I'm just going to put one little line right here, just barely in the corner of my grid, like that. Okay? Now, this square right here, this number where I mark number 2, is all done. Okay, I'm going to move across to the right into the square that has my name, and there's just one small sliver of line, just a little connection right here, just a little sliver like that to finish off that finger. Okay, so I've got 2 squares done, this one and this one. Okay, now see where I'm going to be working now. I'm going to move up to this one here. Now what I want you to do is judge the distance from the corner of this grid to the corner of this one without using your ruler. I want you to put a mark in the middle of that line, which I think is about right there. Okay, just about right there. Okay, now I'm going to go from there to right here with a curve. Okay, now notice this curve, so I'm going to sketch this in, just kind of showing you the motion like this. It's going to go like this, here, like that. Okay, now I put that in super light, so let me go over that a little bit darker for you so you can see. and I'm going to add one little detail near the end of the line. So as this comes down here, right here, there's going to be just a little bit of a bump right there for a knuckle, then it's going to connect. It's just a really slight bump, but that's an important thing to get. Okay, so there that line is curving down and connecting to that finger. Okay, then right here at this same spot, right there, I'm going to put another little sketch mark right there. And I'm going to draw from here down to here like this. Okay, so this is going to be another curving line like this that'll curve down, and right before I get there, there's going to be a little bump for that knuckle, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to go over that again with you, a little bit darker for you, just like this. Nice curve, like that. Okay, then this finger here needs to go up a little bit and then connect about like that. So let me draw that in right there. Now notice how nice and smooth and curving that finger is. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that so far. Now this is the most complicated grid of my day and I'm still working on it. Okay, here's what I'm going to do next. What I'm going to do is judge from this corner, I'm going to go across to the left, a short distance about right there, and I'll put a little mark. Okay, now this is a little bit tricky. All I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this little curve like this, which is going to kind of go out and then curve up like that. Now take a look at that curve for me. You don't even need to worry about what it is I'm drawing. Yes, it's part of the finger, but you don't really need to name it. Okay, now at the end of this line here, I'm going to slant down just a really short, kind of straight line right there. Okay, so let's take a look at this line again. It curves, then it's going to slant down just a short distance right there. Okay, and then I'm going to connect from right here down to right there where that finger is like that. And it's going to be a fairly straight line. Okay, so I'm going to sketch this down like this here, and it's going to connect right to that finger about like that. Okay, and I'm going to make that just a little bit curvy. It's mostly straight, but just a little bit curvy right there. Okay, now that's looking pretty good. But I'm still working hard on this grid here. I'm not done. Okay, now right here on this finger, I'm going to go up this finger about right there, and I'm going to draw a slanted line downward, which is going to create for me a negative space kind of triangle right there. Okay, now this is very important. From this line here, I'm going to go up about like right here, and I'm going to slant downward at about the same angle, stopping when I hit that grid right there. Okay, now that's part of another finger. Okay, let's keep working together. See where I finish this line? I'm going to go up just a little distance. I'm going to put a mark about right there. See that for me. And then I'm going to curve upward just a little bit and over to the right until I hit my grid right there. That's going up just a little bit. It's not quite straight across. Okay, then I want to go up this finger line, do one more line, right, starting right there. I think that looks pretty good. And this line is going to be curvy. It's going to go up, and then it's going to curve down right there and hit my grid line. Okay, now as you can see there, that was a fairly complicated grid, and now I'm done with it. And one of the rules of grid drawing, of course, is to finish one square at a time. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's work on this square right here. Now for this one, I'm just going to put a small tip of this finger inside this grid. It's going to be really small, only about this much of this finger. So just a small little tip of it. Okay. Now this line here, I'm going to continue the angle of the line into this grid right until it hits that grid line right there. And once it hits, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go up for the tip of this finger like that. See how I put that in? And then I'm just going to connect that with a nice curve, as you can see, like that. And that finishes off that grid as well. Make sure that finger is kind of curving Okay, like that. Okay, that may be the hardest thing of the day. Okay, now I want to move up, and I want to do this grid right here. Okay, now for this one, the first thing I'm going to do is start here, and I'm going to draw up with a curve until I hit this grid right there. I'm going to hit that right there, then I'm going to bend it back a little bit to the left, and stop about right there. Okay, I'm actually working on his thumb. Okay, now right here I'm going to put another mark, about this far away from the corner of my grid. Now this gets a little complicated with this thumb, so watch what I'm going to do. Right here I'm going to start here and go up, stopping right there with a curve. I'm just going to go over that a little darker, make sure I'm not drawing this too quickly. Okay, then once I hit there, I'm going to go straight across with a horizontal line about that far. Okay, reviewing, it's a curve, up, straight across. I'm going to go up again now, just with a very short distance like that. See how short that line is? I'm going to go straight across again, about that far, and then I'm going to go up, creating the tip of his thumb kind of rounded like that. Okay, now I'm going to review that real quick with you. So this curve to a point, straight across, up to a point, straight across, and then a rounded thumb, as you can see right there. Okay, now there's a couple more things I need to do inside this grid before I can move on. Okay, let's put some dots. I'm going to go with a dot right here. See that for me? Now judge the distance from this grid corner, go across to the left, and let's put another dot right there. Okay, now what I'm drawing is basically a U shape. It's going to come down about this far. I'll just sketch this with you real quick. This is kind of a U, like that. See that for me? I'm going to go over that for you just a little bit darker. Just like that there. That's actually the heel of Spider-Man. A couple more lines. Back to this grid line right here. About halfway between the corner of my grid and the end of my U, I'm going to put a slanted line right there. It's really short. Okay. Doing pretty good about that. And then finally, at the side of this U, about right here, I'm going to put a mark like that. We'll just leave that there for a second. Come down my grid about that far. I'll put another one, and I'm just going to do kind of like a gentle curve in between like that. Okay, so as you can see, I've worked on 5 grids, and now I have this thumb, fingers, heel, nicely drawn according to the grid system.
Hand number 1 is done. I will now move from the lower right-hand corner of my paper to the upper right-hand corner of my paper, and I'll continue with hand number 2.
Okay, so on this grid I have this line here, halfway up, okay? And over here, it's very close to this grid, so I'm going to put a mark right there. Whenever something is close to a grid, it's going to be easy. Okay, now the other side, right here, is a little further away. Okay, so I'm going to mark that right there. Okay, these 3 marks then tell me the size of his knee. Okay, let's go ahead and draw that in. It's kind of fun. There's some curves to it, kind of a little bumpy. Come up like this. It's a little rounded. It's not totally straight across at the top. Notice that for me. I think these are kind of fun to draw. Rounded here. How close am I to my grid? Let me get this curving in, coming up. Okay, and I think that's not a bad shape for Spider-Man's knee. I can also see there's a tiny piece of line down here in the lower right. I'll put that right there. Okay, so there's the knee of Spider-Man. But really what I wanted to do here is focus on the second hand. Okay, now most young students, when they draw fingers and hands, what they do is they draw them too small. Okay, how do I avoid that? I use my negative space. So if I'm looking at this thumb now, instead of worrying about the thumb itself at this moment, I want to look at my negative space. So what I want to do is judge how far the tip of the thumb is from this grid line here, and I want to put a mark. It tells me I need to draw my thumb out this far, okay, because it's natural for students to want to draw it too small. But if you mark your negative space first, you probably won't have that problem. Okay, so now I'm ready to draw that thumb. Well, how far down does it go? Well, I'm going to go down about this far. It's going to go up a little bit, then across, curve up, and hit my mark, as you can see right there. Okay, what about the negative space between the knee and the thumb? Does that look right to you? Take a look at that. See if you agree. See if that looks okay to you. Okay, there's that thumb right there. Now, there's a little bit of the top of the thumb inside this grid, and I'm going to do that right now. Okay, now I check my grid. It's done, and so I'm ready to move on. Okay, now this index finger that's in this grid, it's a challenge. Okay, so let me tell you what I'm thinking. First of all, knowing that it's natural to shrink it, I'm going to mark the negative space. So I want my finger to go up about this high, and I'm going to put a horizontal mark right here. Okay, now I probably just have to draw that. Might have to make a couple mistakes here. Okay, here I go. Let's draw this in. I'm going to start in the corner. I'm going to put a little line right there in the corner that's kind of like this. Then it's going to slant downward and connect to the top of the thumb like that. Okay. Now what you need to notice is how many times this finger changes direction. Okay, so here's my thumb connecting to it. It's going to go up about this far. I want to be about that close to my grid. Then I'm going to go change direction, come up like this. Change direction. Go up like that. I think that looks close. Okay, let's put on the tip of the finger. Fairly straight across. Bump for the knuckle. And it's going to go down and hit my grid, then I'm going to stop. And I drew that fairly quickly. I'm going to review it since a lot of students mess it up. Advice, if you're going to mess up on fingers that you're drawing, it's always better to make them a little too big instead of too small. So I'm just checking this again, seeing what I'm thinking right here like that. Okay, now, is there anything else in that grid that I need to draw? No. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and move on. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this finger down to his arm right through here like this. But I want to notice all the changes of direction. Okay, my arm basically goes straight across, parallel to the grid, until I get about right here. It's going to go up. Okay, I'm going to come inside my grid here for a knuckle, about right there. And I'm going to come down and connect to my line like that. Try not to make that a super smooth curve. It does curve like this. It curves right here like that. And it kind of curves out right here and into that finger, as you can see. Okay, now here's where it gets complicated. You got one finger touching another one, making a very unusual shape. Okay, let's go ahead and do that then. So what I'm going to do right here, this finger touches right here, I'm going to come up like that, draw a knuckle. I'm going to slant downward like this for another knuckle. Then it's going to curve and connect to the arm like that. Okay, and I did that kind of quick. I'm going to go over that again with you. Okay. This finger touches like this. Let's go ahead and draw that. Notice that little negative space right there. Okay, I think that worked out pretty good. As a review, slanted line, knuckle, penetrate across, run into the finger, change direction, put that in like that. Okay, there's another finger touching this one. It's about this high. I'm going to sketch that in like that. And then I'm going to slant that down right there. Okay, now that's a fairly complicated grid. I'm going to take a look at it, make sure I love it. Did I miss anything in there? No, I'm ready to move on. Okay, let's do one more right here. Now, here's what I'm noticing. How close is his arm to this grid, like right there? Okay, this is a complicated line. It's going to come up. Try not to make Spider-Man too skinny. Coming up with a nice curve. Back to my thumb right here. I'm going to go into this grid and curve it up like that. Can't forget this detail, this part of his uniform that will curve like this, right to there, like that. Okay, one more thing to do. How far down does this finger go? Looking at my negative space. Okay, I'm going to go about right there with it. How close is it to this grid? Negative space. I'm going to go about right there with it. Looks like if I drop this down right here like this, it's about where it should be. I'm going to draw right towards that corner, a slanted line like that. Okay. Don't want this finger to get too skinny. And I'll curve this into that fingertip right there. Now, I don't want that fingertip to be too sharp, so I'm thinking about like that. Okay, I'm going to take one more look at that. I don't know, maybe that finger is just a little bit low. I'm going to trim off just a little bit of it. Okay, a couple cleaning up things right there, like that. Erase that little sketch line. Okay, now you've worked on the hardest grids with me, and I'm ready for you to continue.
At this point, I have the hardest part of the drawing done, the hands. I have the 3 columns on the left done as well, and it's all downhill from here. The next 15 minutes of the video are not narrated, but you'll see me finish this drawing in the same way that I've been working so far. I'll finish one square completely before starting another square. So let's wrap this up. So that's how you use the grid system. You focus on one square, drawing its contents as accurately as you can, finishing all the lines inside the square before starting a new square. If you follow this rule, you will make very accurate drawings. Thanks again for watching and drawing. I hope you had a good time and that you learned something. I hope to see you again someday back on my channel. Have a great day, and don't forget to keep on drawing.